and grew up not far from here, actually. And I ended up in a family with a lot of mental illness challenges, financial challenges, some real hardships. But I have to tell you, I also had parents who understood skills and understood principles. And that's why by the age of 4, hard to believe I'm 65 now, but at the age of 4, I was already cooking full meals under supervision, learning to cook for a family. I knew how to do my clothing. My mother said, that's a washer, that's a dryer. And I learned how to wash my clothes. I didn't like it very much at the time, but again, principles. So important nowadays. Skills. I love what the last speaker said about skills. Until today, I never knew that I was an artist. I can't wait to go home and take out my crayons. I'm so excited. So what that led to for me was an odd thing. By the age of 13, I was actually running a daycare, an afternoon and evening daycare center, because my parents presented me with 4 siblings, and they were hardworking people. So my day would be to go to school, come home, make dinners, make lunches, to help them do their homework, maybe do my homework, and start over the next day. And what was interesting about that is having hardworking parents. I had a mother who was really interesting. She went to see a little unknown movie in 1972. You may have heard of it. It was called The Godfather. And my mother fell in love with Robert De Niro and decided that someday she would meet him. We laughed, we chuckled, we tried to steal her dream. Today she's 87. And at 87, she's doing 2 fitness classes a day, 5 days a week. I can't do one of them, and I run 5Ks regularly. I walk fast, I don't run. My mother is interesting because many, many years ago, she got a call from a talent agency. And she got off the phone, and I remember her saying, I just got a part in a movie because they want a short, fat Russian woman. And that's what she was. She ended up being in fact, an extra in movies for over 25 years. She was in things like X-Men. But here's why this is so important for all of you. Because 7 or 8 years ago, my mother got a call to come and do a scene in a movie in Milton, Ontario, not far from here. Who did she do the scene with? Robert De Niro. Ladies and gentlemen, you cannot ever give up on your dreams. They gotta be bigger and scarier than you can ever imagine. Well, I had a dream too. As a kid in the 60s, yes, I'm from the 60s, most of you aren't, but I had this dream to walk on the moon, to be in space exploration. They laughed, they chortled. I was told I was stupid, because nobody was thinking about walking on the moon in the early 1960s. But in 1969, we were all sitting around our TV sets, our radios, as a man jumped onto the moon for the first time. What was his name? I'm Neil. And my dream was touched, very much touched. And I was very, very excited. Well, like the rest of you, I ended up in school, not too far from here. Grade 1, 1961. Every morning at 10 o'clock, I would hear these wonderful words from my teacher. Neil Silvert, it's time to go to the class for dummies. Leave the classroom, go to the dummies. I had a remedial reading problem. It was introduced as you have to go to the room for dummies. By the way, you wouldn't do that today. But the truth of the matter is, when your teacher tells you 5 days a week, every day at school for a whole school year that you're a dummy, it starts to stick with you. I just assumed that I was a dummy, but I also had principles. By the time I got to high school, I did what many, many of us know is a positive principle. I failed my way to success. Failed and failed and failed, Well, I worked 3 jobs, took care of a daycare center, and tried to keep the marks coming. But here's what's really interesting. When I got my diploma, the school principal actually said to me, Neil, please take this diploma and go, because we don't know how the hell to get you out of here. That's a true story. I went back the next year to grade 13, because you could do that in those days, and I did not know what I wanted to do. Interesting that I ended up going to college. Somehow, I got accepted into college. Now, here's a funny thing about college. You probably don't know this. You actually need money to go to school. And after 3 months of school, I had to make a decision. Continue in school but be homeless and have no food, or give up and go home. And I did. I came back to Kitchener-Waterloo. And after a little while, I ended up in the nuts and bolts business. Screws, nuts, bolts, things that hold things together. Well, remember my dream, ladies and gentlemen, of walking on the moon. Because after a little while with the fastener industry, I rose through the ranks. I was running factories. And one day I was called into a meeting with my boss and a gentleman from a company called Spar Aerospace. And I was told that they were making this thing called the Canada Space Arm, and they wanted me and one of my employees to make the fasteners. And ladies and gentlemen, I helped to make the fasteners in that first Canada Space Arm. Ladies and gentlemen, what you need to know, what you need to remember is if you have a dream, go for it. Never stop, because you don't have to have the answer to have the dream. After that career, I decided to give back. Someone had helped my family. So I looked to go into charitable fundraising. And lo and behold, I actually found a course that offered you a year of training and 2 years of work. This was back in the 80s. And the only problem with applying to this course, which was only taking 5 people from across Canada, was that one had to have an M degree, a Master's of Social Work, or an MBA. I had grade 12. I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to win. So I applied and I interviewed. And in 1982, I became one of the 5. And it was exciting. We learned how to raise money professionally, run social services agencies. I could go to a person, ask them for $1 million, and give them a receipt and a thank you note. How many people here can do that? Every one of you, if you're passionate about your cause. You just have to learn. But what we were really doing, what we weren't advertising, was we were giving most of the money to rescue operations. I was involved with a group of people. We were rescuing men, women, and children from terrorist groups, from situations where they were going to die, and we were bringing them to safety. And in the early 90s, someone came to me. I was working in Hamilton running an agency, and they explained to me that 4 members of their family were being held, and they were going to be machine gunned because they were the wrong religion. If they were the right religion, they would be on a Red Cross caravan out of the city. With the use of a fax, we didn't have computers then, the use of telephone calls and letter writing. That's, by the way, where you take paper and you write stuff. For those of you who don't know. We were able to save this family. We convinced this terrorist that they were members of a different religion. And 30 days after, a number of us got to meet them in Hamilton and have dinner with them. You don't know where your dream will take you. More importantly, you don't know what your dream will do for somebody else. It is the most important thing for you to know, is that you can make a difference, absolutely make a difference in people's lives. Is that right? God, I was so good. Ladies and gentlemen, I will finish with this one piece of dream for you. I've since opened up many different businesses because, once again, I was too stupid to fail. I was gullible. I believed that I could win. Many people you may know are having some financial challenges right now. They may have gone to the banks to get help, and the banks have turned them down. Ladies and gentlemen, our system doesn't teach that there's other methods, there's other ways it can be done. So don't give up on your dream, don't give up on encouraging yourselves, and don't forget to encourage others.